Olá, pessoal! Tudo bem? Welcome! Bem-vindos to another podcast. Podcast 48. I'm Carla, as many of you already know, and
I am Marlon.
yes, and we are ready for another podcast.
Yes, indeed. Podcast 48.
This is a follow-up of podcast 41, when Marlon's character, who is called João, we don't use that name very often, do we?
No, we kind of
but
forget
we
about
started off with that. He phoned his friend Tiago, who's married to Patricia, so we could
Tiago,
arrange.
Patricia.
We could arrange to go to the beach together, but they had a problem with their car, so we've had those scenes. Hopefully you have listened to those podcasts. So today we're going to be at the beach, and Marlon will be talking to Patricia sobre o problema do carro, about the car's issue.
É isso mesmo. Bom, então, Carla, if you want the dialogue for this podcast, just as usual, it's PT with Carla, or Portuguese with Carla if you prefer. Easy to memorize, I guess. .com/podcast48. So, Carla, if you're ready, then we can go for it.
Yeah, so I'll be playing Patricia, not my character, which is usually Susana.
And we were saying we often forget that my name is João, just as we did writing the dialogue, because it says M.
Yeah, but it should
anyway,
be J. Okay,
It should be a J.
João.
Okay, so are you ready, Carla?
I'm ready. Estou pronta.
Então, Patrícia, afinal de contas, aquilo do carro ainda não está resolvido.
Opa, arranjámos ali um 31. Já lá vão 3 semanas e nada.
Bolas.
Pois, se fosse só a demora, era uma coisa. Mas cada vez que o Tiago fala com o homem, parece que ele encontra lá mais um defeito. Que é como quem diz, mais uns euros para o bolso dele.
Espera aí, vocês não foram ao Paulo ali na Rua da Ribeira?
Não, estava de férias. E como tínhamos recebido um panfleto com um desconto para um mecânico na avenida, fomos lá.
Ui, estou a ver quem é. Nunca fui com a pinta dele.
Pois, saiu-nos cá um vigarista. Nunca mais.
Deixa estar. Para a próxima já sabem. Ok.
Ok, então agora vamos traduzir isto para inglês. So we'll translate this into English.
Ok, então vamos lá. I guess I start. So, Patrícia, afinal de contas, we'll look at that in a second. That thing with the car has not been sorted.
Opa, bit of a very English or Portuguese expression. Oh, man, we got ourselves um 31, which again we're going to look into it later. Já lá vão 3 semanas e nada. 3 weeks have gone by and nothing.
Bolas, which is very, very common. And it simply means, you're surprised. Really? Or,
Yeah, sort of like, oh my goodness, but different really.
yeah.
Sure, there's lots of
Yeah,
English
many,
expressions
many,
that we can't think of. I know, pois, I know, sort of. If it was only a delay, that would be one thing, but each time Tiago speaks to the guy, it seems like he finds another fault with it. Which, que é como quem diz? What did we say that could be?
Or in other words...
In other words, a few more euros for his pocket.
Wait a minute. Didn't you go to Paulo, there in Ribeira Street?
No, he was on holiday. And because we had received a leaflet with a discount for the mechanic or the garage in the avenue, we went there.
Oh, I see who it is. Nunca fui com a pinta dele. Never went com a pinta dele.
Yeah.
We'll look at that later.
Again. I know. He is such a crook or swindler. Never again.
Never mind. You'll know for next time. Okay, that was a translation. So, Carla, let's take it slowly and really get
This
into
is quite
those.
a tricky one, this one, isn't it? It's full of sort of like very typical Portuguese expressions that cannot be translated literally into English. Not just those that we said we'll translate later, but there's others, isn't it? Just, it's hard to translate word by word because you would never say it that way, and it just isn't right. Doesn't really convey the meaning if you
This is
translate it
why
literally.
this is why we call those little snippets of expressions not in a textbook, because that's the
Idiomatic,
sort of
aren't
thing
they?
you will not find normally in a textbook, because they teach you the more formal, the more correct Portuguese. But correct language is a language that people speak.
Literature style, isn't it? And
Yeah, and that's not how people speak. So anyway, that's why we created this podcast. Isn't that right?
yeah, that is right.
So let's start. Então, Patrícia. So, Patrícia. Então. So if you repeat after me, então. And might as well learn the name because it's a very common name. Patrícia. Patrícia. Então, Patrícia. Or if you're saying it really quickly, many will do, então, Patrícia. Okay, so you drop the E-N bit, that first syllable. Então, Patrícia. Afinal de contas, aquilo do carro ainda não está resolvido. So
Afinal de contas.
that's
Shall we
why
go to-
we just start off with one of the not in a textbook words or expressions here. Afinal de contas. So, Carla, if you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Afinal de contas.
At the end of the math.
Literal meaning.
Oh, right, sorry.
Yeah, let's go with it. Let's go with it.
Okay.
Colloquial meaning.
Expression that bridges the gap between a premise, either stated or understood in context, and its conclusion. Often denotes surprise at what has happened.
All right. An equivalent expression in English.
After all,
Let's put it in context.
afinal de contas, queres ir ao concerto ou não?
Okay, Carla was very excited.
Sorry, yeah, I got ahead of myself, didn't
I
I?
was actually going to say afinal de contas. Sometimes we use the version no final das contas.
No final. Mhm.
But afinal de contas, I think is more common.
Yeah.
So, yeah, do you want to augment that? Do you want to add anything to it? Afinal de contas.
No, I mean, unless you want to translate the context. Afinal de contas, queres ir ao concerto ou não? After all, do you want to go to the concert or not?
Yeah. But we say at the end of the math, or conta is, I don't know, how do you translate conta?
Oh, yeah. It's like adding up, isn't it? When you do
A simple mathematical equation like
2 plus 2 is a
uma
conta.
conta
It could. That's the word we also use for bill,
for bill, yeah.
because it's the adding up of what you had.
Yeah. So in this context, I say afinal de contas. So after all, the car's not been fixed yet. Afinal de contas. Afinal de contas. Aquilo do carro ainda não está resolvido. So that thing of the car, aquilo do carro, or that of the car, aquilo. Aquilo do carro. Hard R there. Aquilo do carro. Ainda não está. Ainda não está. Aquilo do carro ainda não está. Resolvido. Resolved is the English equivalent, if you want to take it literally, but really sorted. Aquilo do carro ainda não está resolvido. So say the whole line with me. Então, Patrícia. Afinal de contas, aquilo do carro ainda não está resolvido. Okay, Carla, it's your turn.
Opa! Epá! Nós usamos isto tanto em Portugal. We really do use this expression a lot, especially around in Lisbon. It's a very Lisbon thing, isn't it? Epá or opa. And yeah, oh man, or in this, it depends on the tone, doesn't it? And in this situation, yeah, I'm not happy. I know, or what other thing did I say? Oh man. Yeah, so that will be it. Arranjamos ali 31. We got there a 31. Arranjamos ali. Arranjamos ali. Let's say it again. Arranjamos ali. Arranjamos ali 31.
That's a bit of a false friend because it's not a range.
Yeah, it has different meanings. It can be a range. But
Oh, yes, that's right. There are contexts. But in this context, it doesn't mean to
arranging
arrange.
flowers or
Yeah.
arranjar as flores. But yeah, no, it's more getting something, or it can also be fixing, the word for fix.
Correct. But Carla, after all, this is another one of those
That's
not
right.
in a textbook moments.
31. Let's go for it.
Arranjar 31. Literal meaning,
To get a 31.
colloquial meaning.
To get into a difficult, stressful problem.
An equivalent expression in English,
To get into trouble.
in context.
A Sara só se lembra da família quando se mete num 31.
Okay, so Carla, translate that for us.
Sarah only remembers family when she gets herself into trouble.
Yeah.
A Sara só se lembra da família quando se mete num 31.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? I mean, it must have
31.
had... Yeah. I'm
Something
thinking
to do with military.
the etymology of that expression must be quite interesting, where it got, where the expression came from, and suddenly we started using it more broadly. You read something about it being used back in the day.
Armada 31.
I
I just read the first phrase on it. I didn't really actually look into it very much, so I couldn't tell you where it comes from. But if you look it up, if you actually write 31, I think in Google, I don't know, doesn't matter. Not teaching him English. So if you Google that, 31, and write in Portuguese, it will show you the origins, and not only it tells you in Portuguese what it is, but actually I think there's in one of the pages that comes up, it gives you the translation in English. So maybe that will help you understand what it is.
The reason we must say why we often do not give you the history of these or the etymology of these expressions
It's confusing,
is because,
isn't it? I mean,
well, and there's so many apocryphal stories, that is false stories, that you just don't know exactly where.
So if it's not accurate, we prefer not to. Well, or if we're
they're
not
fun,
sure.
so go ahead.
Yeah.
But anyway, Carla, so that's to get. And by the way, we don't need to use arranjamos 31. Like the expression you use, you could say meter.
Meter-te. So it's to put yourself.
Yeah.
In that 31 into trouble, or posto posto no 31? No. More meter.
Yeah, meter, arranjar.
Yeah, meter. Já te meteste no 31, né? Yeah, that's right. To get yourself into trouble. So that is exactly how the English would say, as far as I'm aware. And Portuguese, we also use the verb to put, but particularly meter, because we have two others, which is colocar and pôr for put. Yeah. Anyhow, let's carry on with this. Arranjamos ali 31. Once more. Arranjamos ali 31. Já lá vão 3 semanas e nada. Already there go 3 weeks and nothing. Já lá vão 3 semanas e nada. So 3 weeks have gone by already and nothing. Já lá vão 3 semanas. Já lá vão 3 semanas e nada.
Okay.
E nada.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was easy anyway. Go.
Bolas, very, very, very common indeed. Bolas simply means, as you probably have guessed, balls.
But not the swear one. Not.
Oh yeah, no. This is not curse.
Not at all, is it?
Curse? Yeah.
Have you ever watched The Simpsons? Ay caramba, it's sort of like the equivalent for that.
Good, that's good. Ballish.
It's very mild, isn't it? It's just
mild.
Not swearing at all. So it's just an expression when
use that with your friends
when
you're surprised at something. If your friends are Portuguese, they will be surprised that you're using it because you're if you're not native. But it is very, very common. They'll know exactly what it means. Okay, so that was me.
Yeah. Okay.
Ballish.
Pois. Again, this might be a word that you encounter many times if you've been doing Portuguese a while. Pois. We just like to use it, don't we? Those awkward moments, fillers, isn't it? That there's just this silence and somebody goes, pois.
This is exactly what it is. It's an easing word.
So in this case, I'm just saying, I know. He said bolas, and I went like, pois, I know, that's right. Just agreeing with his sort of the emotion that he conveyed when he said bolas. Se fosse só. Okay, there's a lot of s, yeah? So bear with. Let's just say that again. Se fosse só. Ok, só em português. Se fosse só a demora. Se fosse só a demora. Era uma coisa. Era uma coisa. Era uma coisa. Era uma coisa. Ok? Eu acabo por ignorar o A. Era uma coisa. Mas cada vez, o Z no final das palavras é como um S. Sh, ok? Vez. Mas cada vez que o Tiago fala, que o Tiago fala com o homem, parece que ele, outra vez ou novamente, parece que ele encontra, ok? Eu estou a juntar as duas palavras, ele encontra. Parece que ele encontra, novamente, parece que ele encontra lá mais um defeito. Mais um defeito. Mais um defeito. Que é como quem diz. In other words, que é como quem diz. Because that's, I don't know how to translate this, really. That is who says. It's like someone saying, or in other words, that's the best way of saying it. That's what it means. In other words, que é como quem diz. Mais uns euros. Ok, reparem, no S tem o som de Z. Mais uns euros. Mais uns euros para o bolso dele. Ou eu talvez tenha dito para o bolso dele. Para o bolso dele. Ok? Vamos repetir do início. Pois, se fosse só a demora, era uma coisa. Mas cada vez que o Tiago fala com o homem, parece que ele encontra lá mais um defeito. Que é como quem diz, mais uns euros para o bolso dele.
Ok, I apologize for not following up with
Mas eu
the
pensei que
text.
fosse só português.
Pois, desculpem. Eu estava aqui a dizer...
Infelizmente eu não pude traduzir esta frase, não é? Esta parte do diálogo para inglês, desculpem, porque não me é permitido falar inglês agora.
E eu estou aqui no meu iPad, não é? A passar o texto e quando estavas a falar não estava a acompanhar.
Não tem problema. É a tua vez agora, não ficaram muito tempo.
Não, mas tu repetiste a coisa toda. Bom, não interessa. Espera aí, vocês não foram ao Paulo ali na Rua da Ribeira? Ok. Então vamos começar pelo fim. Rua da Ribeira. Rua da Ribeira. Hã? Dois R's ali bem.
Rua da Ribeira.
Exato.
Rua da Ribeira. Ok.
Na Rua da Ribeira. Foram ao Paulo. Paulo é simplesmente o nome de uma pessoa, não é?
De um homem. Um nome masculino.
Neste caso estou-me a referir ao Paulo, mas estou a falar
do mecânico.
Do mecânico, não é?
Paulo.
Foram ao Paulo, ali na Rua da Ribeira. Vocês não foram ao Paulo, ali na Rua da Ribeira? Espera aí. E se estivéssemos a falar rápido, eu não sei como é que disse, mas muitas vezes esta expressão acabaria por ser reduzida a Espera aí. Espera aí. Não, até juntavas o pera e o aí.
Ah, sim.
Espera aí.
Espera aí.
Okay?
Espera aí.
Estão a ver?
É verdade. Hang
Como
on.
é que
Wait a sec.
Carla, estás a
Desculpa,
falar?
desculpa. É verdade, estou a falar inglês.
Espera aí, fica. Espera aí,
Espera aí.
ok? Pronto, então
Pera.
vamos fazer tudo de novo. Espera aí. Vocês não foram ao Paulo ali na Rua da Ribeira?
Okay. Sweet relief for some of you. All right, so another line. No, he was on holiday. Não, estava de férias. I don't say ele estava de férias. There's really no need because João, Amalan's character again, already asked if we went to him, Paulo. So I don't need to say ele. Estava implies it's ele. It could have been você, but in this case it can't be because Marlon has already established that
Because
we're
of the
talking about
context.
him. Yeah. Não, estava de férias. Não. Estava. See, many words that start with es, we just completely obliterate the e. Estava. Estava de férias. Holidays. So in English, I think you say holidays on holiday. You're not supposed to say holidays. He's on holidays. I think it's wrong. I'm not sure. But in Portuguese, it's always plural. Okay, and if it's a bank holiday, it's feriado. But if it's holiday, then férias. Okay, so it's a word that's always in the plural form. Não, estava de férias. E como tínhamos recebido, and as we received, again, I don't say nós tínhamos, because the MOS ending of that verb just tells you it's definitely referring to a we. E como tínhamos recebido, and as we had received. E como tínhamos recebido um panfleto, leaflet,
There is the English word, isn't it? Pamphlet.
Yeah, pamphlet, yeah. Panfleto. E como tínhamos recebido panfleto com desconto, please do not say com desconto, okay? That M at the end of com is just nasal. Think of C-O-N-G, Kong, but don't pronounce the G, Kong. Okay, when you get to the G, you stop yourself. So that's basically how we pronounce C-O-M, Kong. Kong, and both of them are just nasal. Is the same, not com. No, tá bem? Está errado. Com desconto. Com desconto para o mecânico, and notice how I joined para and o, para o mecânico, para o mecânico. Como tínhamos recebido panfleto com desconto para o mecânico ou para o mecânico, ok? Para ou para o.
Or even pó.
Para o mecânico. That's really pushing it, isn't it? But we do that.
We use it, though.
That's terrible, isn't it? Para o mecânico, yeah. E como tínhamos recebido panfleto com desconto para o mecânico na avenida, wow. Pó is actually dust, isn't it? P-O with an accent, not an E-O. We really do push it, don't we? No wonder some people find it difficult.
Languages.
Well, but I suppose we all do it, don't we, in our own languages without realising.
It's not, I mean, anyway, we don't want to get into this.
Okay, let me finish the line.
No, you go ahead.
All right. Okay, so back to para o mecânico, para o mecânico, na avenida, two A's na avenida, so the A from na and the first A from avenida, they sort of join and basically just put an accent on it, and na avenida. Fomos lá. Okay? Então, I'm gonna say this line again. Não, estava de férias. E como tínhamos recebido panfleto com desconto para o mecânico na avenida, fomos lá.
Okay. Now, I was just going to say that oftentimes people do criticize you for making mistakes in the language when really most of the time they're just arbitrary rules that people make about language. Language is a changing, always evolving thing, always changing.
Exactly. It's a living thing, isn't it?
It is. That's the way to look at it. It's a living thing, and whatever people use colloquially, that is what language is. And people making assumptions that it must be a certain way. Well, go back 200 years and it wasn't that way. So are you saying everything wrong now? Anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I mean, there is a lot of people, and sometimes I think we find ourselves doing the same thing, being quite, I don't know, just stuck in our ways. This is how it's said. But it doesn't really have to be. I mean, if you're writing something, an exam, or you might feel like you have to follow certain rules. But when it comes to speech and even writing books, some people think that, no, I would like to write as I speak. So.
I'm reading a really interesting book by a guy called, I think his name is Paul Neves.
Yeah, I've read a couple of pages.
He's
really
a Portuguese, he's not a linguist per se, he's a translator, but he's got a tremendous interest in
languages.
In linguistics. And the way he writes his book, even though he is an expert in the subject, is very colloquial.
It's just so enjoyable to read because you feel like you're just having a conversation with him.
Yeah.
So it's a very conversational manner. I think if you guys are looking for a Portuguese book to read, I think that would be good.
I'll make a reference for it. It's really good.
Because I think most of the listeners want to learn Portuguese for conversational purposes.
He actually uses a lot of expressions in... Anyway, we're getting to a different subject. But it is, if you want to learn the Portuguese... And of course, it's not to say that you can't... There is a place for more I want to say correct, expected...
A bit more formal and grammatically correct.
The sort of expected Portuguese that people would view, even if an archaic way, they would view as correct, because you want to give out the good,
What's the expression you used? O comer está na mesa. I thought that was good. O comer está na mesa. The comer is the verb to eat, many of you will know. So when we want to say the food is on the table, we should say a comida está na mesa. But we often say o comer está na mesa. So we've made a noun out of the verb, which is very common.
In English is even more common.
Isn't it? And the other way around.
Yeah, and the other way around.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll WhatsApp you.
Yeah, but, but people will criticize you for doing that because, that's a noun. You cannot use it as a verb, or that's a verb. You cannot use it. It happens all the time in a lot of languages. Anyway,
okay,
we
diverge a little. So let's just go back to the pronunciation.
Okay, so let me go into my next. Have you done your line?
Yes, I have. So. Yeah.
Okay, so in this next line, it's I think one of the most interesting, one of my favorite expressions that we've taught you before or up to now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really like this one. Anyway, let's go from the start. Ui. Estou a ver quem é.
Ooh, isn't it? It's just like, oh, that hurts. Like, oh.
Yeah, and he says, estou a ver quem é. I see who you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Estou a ver. I am seeing. A ver is like the English,
present
what they
continuous.
Interestingly, what they call a verb noun.
Okay.
A ver.
Seeing. Mm-hmm.
Estou a ver quem é.
Who it is.
Estou a ver quem é. Or again, you could just drop that and just estou a ver quem é. Nunca fui com a pinta dele. Okay, so nunca, never. Fui, never went. Com a pinta dele. Now that's not in a textbook expression. Carla, you ready?
I am ready.
Não ir com a pinta dele. Literal meaning.
Not going with his spots.
Colloquial meaning.
Used to express an unfriendly feeling towards someone.
An equivalent expression in English.
Not keen on him.
In context.
Hoje conheci a nova namorada do Pedro e não foi com a pinta dela. Okay, so in context. Hoje conheci a nova namorada do Pedro e não fui com a pinta dela. Today I met Pedro's new girlfriend and I was not really keen on her.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't think of a different expression. I'm thinking there's a better expression that just I wasn't keen on her. I didn't really warm up to
Maybe.
her, but anyway, it gives you an idea. It's just when you meet someone and your first impression isn't the best.
As we have it there, it's an unfriendly feeling.
Yeah.
Towards someone.
You were just not keen on the person.
But it's just the way we say it.
Yeah. And in the context, I mentioned não ir com a pinta dela. So it could be dele or dela. Dele if it's a man, you're talking about. Dela if it's a woman.
Okay. So let's learn to say that. Pinta, pinta. Which, okay, just to give you might see this word in other places. Pinta means spot. Like a spot in, like a beauty spot.
Yeah. Like a pimple, isn't it a pimple?
Pinta.
Pinta. No, it's more
All Carla thinks about that. It can also mean he paints the wall.
Yeah.
Ele
Você
pinta
pinta,
a parede.
ele, ela pinta. But also, yes, what I mean is more, oh goodness, it's like a birthmark, isn't it? Sometimes we had a friend with a big birthmark on his face, on his cheek, and that was his nickname. We called him
mark
Pinta.
is more sinal, right?
Yeah.
More sinal.
What's that? A beauty?
Beauty mark? Beauty...
What do you mean? I don't know. What do you mean, actually?
Well, Google it.
No, what? Just tell me.
No, because I can't explain very well.
But like when somebody draws...
No. It's like, it's just, as you were saying earlier.
Like a birthmark.
Yeah, but a tiny little thing like normally around the lip.
Uma pintinha. It's like a little spot. So
Yeah.
So dresses, like spotty dresses, would be like vestido com as pintas.
Pintas.
Yeah, so it could be like spots.
Beauty
but
spot.
I don't think it's necessarily
spot.
a beauty spot, no.
No?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Well, pinta.
But we did refer to that birthmark as a big pinta.
So that's where I was
we
saying.
nicknamed the guy
beauty
Pinta.
spot is
Can I speak,
more...
Marlon?
Yes,
Goodness
go on.
sake. It's just... All right, go ahead. Take over.
I want to correct myself. Beauty
All right.
spot is, in my mind at least,
Yeah.
is more sinal. What we would call sinal. Like a little thing above the lip.
It doesn't have to be above the lip.
Well, it's normally around, for some reason, in my
okay.
mind, it's around the lip.
All right.
And as you say, pinta is more, perhaps something a bit more substantial.
Yeah, but I suppose you can refer to, what's that little pinta on your face? And like just a birthmark or, something I drew on my face because I don't know. But yeah, pinta it is. The translation for pinta is spot. But not spot as in a blemish. It's not that, is it? That would be borbulha, em português de Portugal. E em português brasileiro, espinha. Which is...
Você tem espinha na cara?
Yeah. Tá cheio de espinha.
Cheio de espinha.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, so we were saying, nunca fui com a pinta dele. I really like that.
Okay.
I never went with his spot. As in,
I would say, nunca fui
like
com a
the guy.
cara dele. I never went with his face. You know, like, I don't like your face.
yeah, so
That's
you could
how
use
I
that
would
one
say.
as well. I never
Yeah.
went with his face. Okay. Anyway, I think we've done that to death. Nunca fui com a pinta dele. Carla.
Right. Pois, I know. Or now I know what you're talking about. Pois, saiu-nos cá vigarista. Sair is to go out, to exit, or sometimes it turned out to be. No?
Yes.
Because you would say, if you're talking about someone who looks, let's say, you look just like your father, or he looks just like his father. So in the past, you would say, ele sai ao pai. No?
Okay,
It could
that's
be
correct, yeah.
in appearance, but it could also be personality-wise. So in this case, so like the person turned out to be, or came out into the world looking like his father. So, saiu-nos cá vigarista, this one turned out to be a swindler or a crook, somebody who misleads you, or what's the other word with a D in English? Deceitful. That's one. That's the one.
Deceitful.
Yeah, it's deceitful.
He's a hornswaggled.
Right.
You know that one?
No, I didn't, and I don't really want to know. So, all right. So, pois, saiu-nos cá vigarista. So, he turned out to be to us. And then cá, again, it's just one of those words that we just use. So please don't worry about translating these expressions literally because it's just the expression. Saiu-nos cá vigarista.
Yeah, cá is not here. Well, it is kind of here, isn't it?
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to translate that into English. It just wouldn't make sense. So I don't know if you could even translate that into another language. Possibly.
By the way, this it could well have been another one of those not in a textbook. Saiu-nos.
Yeah.
Cá
Sair-se cá. No? Reflexive. Saiu-nos cá. So if I was just saying that it turned out to be, from my point of view, a swindler or a crook, I would say saiu-me cá vigarista. But because I'm referring to to my character Patricia as well as my character's husband Tiago, then I use nos. Okay, he turned out to be a swindler to us. Okay, so saiu-nos cá. So let's pronounce that. Saiu-nos cá vigarista. Vigarista. Ou trapaceiro, if you prefer. Vigarista.
Isn't that more Brazilian?
Trapaceiro.
Trapaceiro.
I don't know. But I'm sure that in Portugal they would use it and that wouldn't be a problem. Okay. Nunca mais. Nunca mais. Never again. Nunca mais.
It literally is never more, but nunca mais. Okay, my last line. Deixa estar. Okay? Or you could say deixa estar.
Yeah.
Deixa estar. Either would do.
Or just deixa.
So,
Deixa. Or deixa lá.
Deixa lá.
Deixa lá.
Actually, that's very common as well.
Brasileiro, deixa para lá. Desculpa.
That's out of it's just as I was trying to put on this Brazilian accent, they do open their mouth so much more. The vowels are so much more.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people find it easy to learn, actually.
Okay. Deixa estar. Deixa estar. Para a próxima, já sabem. Para a próxima. Para a próxima. Não próxima. Próxima. Para a próxima, já sabem. You already know.
Oh, you'll know better.
Para a próxima, já sabem. And the whole line again. Deixa estar. Para a próxima, já sabem.
This is it. End of podcast. O fim do podcast 48. Okay, this is probably the longest podcast
in a while. We've done long podcasts, but there were so many good expressions we just had to...
and there was more we could actually do more about it and explain a little bit more, but hopefully you got the gist of them all and you'll be able to use them. So pick your favorite, learn it, and give it a go.
Yes. The fun of these things is that if you have friends that are natives, that just use them.
It's funny because I do have a few students, and one of them was telling me the other day he went to a restaurant and he used nos drinks.
Yeah?
Yeah. And somebody asked him, how was everything? And he said, nos drinks, está tudo nos drinks. Everything is spot on. It's just really good. And the first person, right, okay, really good. So they were impressed because obviously he has this, he has an accent, so they can tell that he's not native Portuguese, so they appreciated it. But the second person he used it with, she didn't get it. She had no idea what he was talking about. Said she never heard it. I don't think it's a regional thing because I think she got her workmate, I think, to sort of listen to the expression, and he's I know it. I think that's what happened. But yes, there was definitely one person that didn't get it. She had never heard of it.
It's such a shame that those expressions that are so common are never or very rarely taught when you're learning the language, because that's what makes the language learning interesting.
I suppose the most common way of teaching a language is that classical way, isn't it? Where you just teach the proper way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people actually are happy with it. It does depend why you're learning. If you're learning I don't know, you wanna have a very high level of Portuguese, and you wanna speak really eloquently, I suppose you would want to learn it that way. But if you just want to understand, you have a house there, or you go to Portugal, you go on holiday, you want to understand the language of the people. So I think it's good to learn these expressions.
I think sometimes courses are so grammar focused that it becomes such a drag learning the language that way. But anyway.
A lot of people like it, though, so it's not for everybody, it's true, but a lot of people like it. So with our podcast, I think you have the option. One or two Portuguese natives related to some of you listeners may not appreciate sometimes some of these expressions that we teach you. They probably think, it's a bit too sort of like lower class, but this is how the people speak, and you want to understand them. And if you have a place over there, you probably have, I don't know, you have a woman who comes and cleans the place, or a man, whoever, and doesn't speak any English at all. The guy who comes and fixes your things, I don't know, your pool, or the plumber, and they don't speak any English. You want to be able to understand them, just in case.
Even the guy that translates books, even the guy who writes books, when he's speaking to his family, he's not going to speak like that. With a very formal.
Some families do, don't they?
It's
but it
rare,
does depend.
though.
Yeah, it's not a very common thing, though.
People speak like, and they speak in a very sort of free, full of mistakes sort of way. That's the way the spoken language is seen all over the place, not just.
Although, yeah, it's true. I mean, obviously, you want to be a bit more formal if you're at the bank, or if you go to the doctors, and
often we have podcasts about that. By the way, Carla, I mentioned this to one of somebody in a comment in a YouTube comment said, I have these ideas, maybe you could try all these things. We have actually been planning a few changes. We haven't discussed it because we haven't got anything baked. But we can tell you that podcast 50 will be the last podcast
in this style.
In this style, yes. We're not going to dramatically change things, but there's going to be different.
Just develop it a little. Just make it, I don't know, just more interesting for some of you, or hopefully for all of you. Just bring it to another level.
So podcast 50 will be the end of this, I guess,
the way we
series.
have done.
Series.
So we'll start
podcasts.
a new series of podcasts.
Indeed. With that said, Carla, this is indeed a very long podcast for our standards.
All right, guys. Ok, muito bom. Esperamos que vocês tenham aprendido muito. E um bom dia, uma boa tarde ou uma boa noite.
Ok.
Tchau.
Tchau.